stagnancy. It might not seem like it, but this is one of the most detrimental life holds. To live in complacency. To be guided by what becomes the predictable crappiness of our life, sacrificing the possibility of what if for the known. Now, don't get me wrong, stability and predictability can be wonderful and in some cases necessary, but those aren't synonymous with stagnancy. So how do we navigate that fine line and ensure that we aren't getting swayed by shame to stay in that place of comfort and avoidance? Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Kira Wackett. Thanks for joining me for another video as we work to empower and equip you with the confidence and skills to write your own story so that you can live your life on purpose. Today we're talking about stagnancy, what it is and how not to get stuck there. Stagnancy is the protective and avoidant choice we make to stay in our comfort zones, protecting ourselves against ambiguity and fear. It's about making constant rationalizations for the life that we're living, telling ourselves that we're fine, when we're actually breaking down on the inside, hating the lives that we lead, and becoming a shell of our true selves. And look, I get it. I've done it. I've lived and likely still do, in some regards, live on autopilot, inviting the comfort of the predictable crappiness, especially when I'm sold on the notion that my chances for anything better are outweighed by the negatives. It's a hard sell to get out of that comfort zone, but the norms that you're selling yourself on are all a misguided lie. See, you've conditioned yourself to see all the possible negative outcomes of change, of trying, of growing as absolutes. You see the world through distorted lenses and have to retrain your brain to see possibility there rather than certainty. You have to create a more neutral plane from which you can find curiosity rather than judgment whenever we think about change, to move to exploration and openness rather than assumptions and shutting down. Okay, so where do we start? I want you to take some time and reflect on the following. First, name one thing that you've been holding yourself back from doing or letting go of because of the fear of what if. Now get as detailed as possible. What is it that you want to do, say, or share? How would things change? And what are all the what if points that have attached themselves to it? Now make a list of all possible outcomes if you were to do, be, or share X, good, bad, and neutral. And if you have trouble coming up with neutral or positive outcomes, especially if your brain is programmed for the negative, ask someone else because they're not going to have those same subjective fears. Third, look at your worst case scenario. Now really, if you're being honest, how strongly do you believe that that fear, that worst case is actually going to happen? Is there any possibility for doubt, any room for an alternative? And can we ever absolutely be sure that something will happen? Now ask yourself, how does living in this state of presumed certainty affect your daily life? How is it stopping you? How is it guiding you? What impact does it have on how you're showing up in the world? And 5, how can you move to a more accurate perception and into that state of openness? How can you become curious rather than fearful and allow yourself the possibility to try on change and to go for something that feels right and authentic to you? Now, one thing that can be super helpful as you start to consider this is to use the method of an anchor thought. So even if all those terrible things happen, what is the anchor, the something positive, the gain, or even the loss, if it's a positive loss, that would happen when you do this, instead of allowing yourself to get stuck in the what if I did this? An example might be something like, okay, leaving this relationship is going to be hard. I'm going to be sad. I have to grieve the loss of it all. But by leaving, I'm choosing myself and what's best for me, as I know I don't want to be in this relationship. I'm choosing what I need, want, and deserve over complacency, allowing myself the opportunity for something better than fine. Okay, before you go, I want you to take just a little bit more specific action. So let us know in the comments, what is one thing that you're going to commit to doing in the next 2 weeks to break out of this cycle of stagnancy? Whether it's the reflection or trying something else on, but something that you are going to commit to. Now, to help you in this, it can be really supportive to have a mantra, something that maybe includes your anchor thought or an affirmation to remind yourself that you are allowed to do hard things and that you have and will continue to surpass your fears. Now, one thing that I think is super important is to remember you don't have to feel ready to make a change. In fact, that's not the goal. If you feel ready for change and excited for all these things and it feels like everything's going to work out great, you've probably mitigated the risk to the point that you're not actually doing anything that different. So just showing up and allowing yourself to be in that state, and again, anchoring on the idea that designing a life that is outside of the predictable can only happen if we are in that state of discomfort. Now, if you found today's episode valuable and insightful, I encourage you to hit that thumbs up, click subscribe, and of course, share this episode with someone you think could benefit from hearing it. If you're ready to take that next step in your own shame resilience journey, be sure to click the link in my show notes to download the free handout I have, 5 things shame resilient people do every day and 3 things they don't. And if you're looking for more ways to connect, you'll find links to my website, email list, and podcast below, as well as a link to set up a discovery call to go over any questions that you have about programs, ways that we could work together, or just getting some ideas about the next steps in your shame resilience journey. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Remember, you have the right to author your own story. So let's go get that pen back.